everything we can. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to yet another episode on Around the A, your favorite Atlanta sports podcast. We welcome you guys into another week of a Falcons recap show. And it's the Week 8 recap here. And, it's been a tough week for us. We're sitting here on Thursday night. Got this episode out about a day or two a little later than scheduled, but we're here to recap to this tough loss up in Nashville. Regardless, our Atlanta Falcons fall 28-23 to the Tennessee Titans, a.k.a. the Houston Oilers, up there this weekend to Will Levis and his coffee and his mayonnaise, who's currently in the process of losing to Pittsburgh just about 3 days later. So that doesn't make us feel any better about Falcons fans. But we're here to break down everything that has happened, which is a lot. A lot has happened in the last week and change here for our Falcons and from on the field and off. And we're here to keep you guys updated on everything. You know, we got you covered here around the A. So if you're a first-time listener, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to any platform you may be watching it, whether it's on our YouTube channel, whether it's something of mine or Micah's, any of our fellow crew members, Tucker, Dylan, or Connor. If it's one of our clip outs, if it's an audio-only format, which should be coming here sooner rather than later, we really do appreciate the support, and we thank you guys for giving us your view at whatever time of day you decide to. But yeah, with that all the house cleaning out of the way, got to get to my co-host here, my boy Mike and Neil. Been a long week for you, but I'm sure you're excited to sit down and talk about everything that's happened. But first of all, what's been going on in your life, man? How you been?
Man, I've been good. This week, basketball started at my college, so I'm actually getting the opportunity to write for the men's and women's basketball team. This week they had a game, but I decided to sit back, take pictures, and let the experienced people write. They told me I could write if I wanted to for that game, but I said I wanted to see how they do it and learn the ropes for this week. But I'll be ready for the next game that they do to write. But getting down to the end of the semester here. Works getting less work. Some classes getting ready to end. Some classes getting to the finals and exams. So I've been good, and I cannot wait for Thanksgiving and Christmas break, winter break.
Yeah, that just means Mariah Carey was released over the weekend. She has officially been defrosted. I have not walked into any store or really been in the car to listen to any radio that's not 92.9 The Game or 680 to the Fans. So shout out to our guys. But I'm sure that they are playing Christmas music on The Fish and Star 94 and all those stations and Kicks 101.5 and every genre of the river for rock. I'm sure they're all playing their Christmas joints already. And yeah, I also, in my life, I turned 20. Over this previous weekend, October 28th, they have now officially lived 2 decades. So it was good to be surrounded by, my friends and family. I had a couple of my best friends come over, watch the Florida-Georgia game, which, as a Gators fan was not the most pleasant experience. Kind of went how I expected it. Yeah, kind of went a little bit how. No, not gonna lie. I thought Florida would keep the game a little bit closer with the Brock Bowers injury. And I think what really was the turning point was almost Arthur Smith, like when I saw Billy Napier out here calling double reverses and then throwing it to the running back on 4th and inches. And that was the turning point because it basically handed y'all 7 points at that point. We come back out and fumble it at our 11-yard line, the drive after it. And that was it. We shot ourselves in the foot. You take away one of those, the game looks a lot closer because Florida probably should have done the right thing, and that was punt the ball or tush push. But, it's not really that surprising. It's like you guys got your own little Steve Spurrier going on in the rivalry. You just got your own coach with the visor just beating up on the other team. That's the era that we're living in right now, and it's just how I got to live with it. But other than that, my birthday was phenomenal. Surrounded by some of my friends and family, had a pizza, played, football in the yard like we were younger again. And, it was just a blast. And then the next day wasn't so great for reasons other than the Falcons. I don't really want to go into it on this podcast, but it was like, welcome to your 20s, bud. This is the ups and downs. This is what you can expect. But, it was a pretty good Saturday and birthday weekend, all things considered. Called the senior game for my alma mater. That Friday night was an exciting game. The same high school that Jarek McKinnon and Michael Chavis went to for the sports phenoms out there. But yeah, that's what's been going on with me. Just gotta, continue on with, the work and school life. I'm not quite as busy as you are, but trying to keep things moving as we head towards the end of our semester. But yeah, that's about what's been going on with us. But I think that's a little, that's enough of what we want to talk about. People did not come here to listen to ourselves. They wanted to listen to us talk about the mother freaking dirty bird Atlanta Falcons. So yeah, if you're ready to get into it, just give me the signal.
Let's go.
So yeah, the Atlanta Falcons are currently still sitting here on November 2nd, which, one more thing. November 2nd, 2023, the time of recording. So I had to wear the Braves hoodie tonight because this is the 2-year anniversary of the Game 6 victory over the Houston Astros, in which we won the 2021 World Series. It was about this time of recording right now when Dansby hit his homer off of the Crawford boxes, and Freddie hit another one, his last at bat in the Atlanta Braves uniform. We won the World Series. So that was great, and so it's funny that we're on the same day and time 2 years later, after 2 years of heartbreak. But this is not a Braves show, but I did want to share that for the people that were wondering when we were recording. But yeah, it's still great to be an Atlanta Brave at the end of the day, and we'll hope that they'll be better next year for it. But regarding our Falcons, right, what people actually came here to listen, they listen to 6 minutes of jibber jabber, and I applaud you. Our audio and viewing retention is already cooked, but the ones that are here are going to stick with us because our Falcons are sitting here on November 2nd, still in first place in the NFC South. And it is via a tiebreaker with the New Orleans Poodat Stinky Aints, as we like to say. But it is not for what you may think. They have not played head-to-head yet. They will be playing in a couple weeks, and hopefully you and I are in attendance of that game, and we get to snap that streak. But the Falcons currently have more conference wins than the New Orleans Saints and a better record in division, and that is the difference right now. The Falcons are 2-0 in division with an extra win in the conference, and that is currently why they are still ahead of the New Orleans Saints, 2-0 in division. But one thing that gives me a little bit of hope about what I like to see versus them is, we finally made the QB switch, which we'll talk about a lot later in the episode, is that they've lost to a lot of the same opponents that we beat. They lost to Tampa. They lost to Houston. They lost to Green Bay. Some of these teams the Falcons were able to go out and win. So that gives me a little bit of hope that we were able to beat those guys with Desmond Ridder, and they couldn't with a healthier Derek Carr, who's now playing through stuff. So that's where they're at. But definitely wasn't great seeing Pete Carmichael actually do his job correctly on Sunday and see them beat the Colts. I think you and I both had the Colts winning that game, but we knew it'd be a tough one. But the Saints played up to their potential, and seeing us lose on that same Sunday is like, great. Is this how it's going to be? Is this the turning point in the year? But as of right now, as of the time of recording, the Falcons are still in first place, even with the loss in Nashville, and that is something to at least be happy about, even though the Bucs are sitting there half back minus the tiebreakers, and the Saints are tied without tiebreakers. Panthers also got their first win this weekend, so you can't ever count them out of the race because we called them dead numerous times last year, and they still finished ahead of us. So this division is a mishmash, just like we thought it would be. But as of right now, we'll see what happens when it matters come January. The Falcons are first place above everybody. Any thoughts before we get into the actual X's and O's on our current status in the division?
I mean, yeah, I was like you expecting Falcons win, Saints loss, and the opposite happened for both ways. And here you are, week 8, tied, going into week 9, tied with the Saints for first. It's disappointing, but like last year we were for also considering the different talent and type teams we played this year compared to last year. There's something to be said, but we still got a lot of a lot of games left.
And yeah, that's one thing to think about because we were first place at numerous times this year and the year before, and we finished in third place, and last year fourth place with all the tiebreakers. So we're kind of looking like Mets out here with leading division early in the year, but it comes back to the end of the year and we're right where we want to be. Well, where we belong, we should say. So we're hoping that's not the case this year. But losing 4 of your last 6 games is definitely not a way to pull away, and definitely to decide that you want to take away the stamps on some of these things that the rest of the league has you labeled as. And it's not been fun to see the league who hates us so much because of our idiotic fan base. So some of it is deserving, and past tenures, past regimes. A lot of these people that hated us all offseason that we ran our tail off about saying, hey, we're going to be different. They've been laughing everything back at us this last month or so because the Falcons have not been able to back up our talk, Micah. And it's a little bit disappointing, but hopefully those same people are also here joining us and they get to see the true sides of both of our fandom, because I like to think we're not in the books with the rest of the fan base, and saying that, saying things just to say it. But there was a game that happened on Sunday, and we'll talk about it here for a minute. They go up to Nashville, a team that's very close to us. We play them almost every preseason. Very rarely see them in the regular season because of different conferences. And there was a very Falcon-like crowd up there. People made the travel, the 4 or 5 hour trip, which is not that far when you think about it in terms of the NFL. And we go up to Nashville for the first time since 2016. It was Zach Mettenberger, not Marcus Mariota, versus Matt Ryan, and the Falcons won that game like 10-7. I want to say that was like right before they got Mike Vrabel, and we were in another rock fight. But we won that game before that season came crashing down in like 2015, I want to say. So we were up there. And the game started off really well for the Falcons. It was another rookie quarterback. I know CJ Stroud wasn't making his first start, but it was a third rookie quarterback. We had already saw Bryce Young in his first start. Then we saw CJ Stroud in his fifth. It was pretty good in that game, even though we won. It was pretty good day for him. And so those are some things to write home about. Like, okay, this CJ Stroud guy, we're glad he's not in our conference, but he looks like he's going to be pretty good for a while. And then you go Will Levis, who, of course, was the story of the draft, had his ups and downs at Kentucky, was known for a lot of, things off the field. Everybody was in love with his girlfriend and sisters at the draft, and he doesn't get drafted the first night. And so he finally gets drafted the second night. I heard he actually broke up with that girl that everybody was obsessed over, so she might have fumbled. Just like Desmond Ridder did again on Sunday. But the Falcons come out and punch the ball out of Will Levis and Tennessee's hands on their opening drive, and we take over around the 27, 28-yard line. I'm like, we got to go in and score. We got to go and punch them in the mouth. This is going to be a rock fight. You got to go get points. And we get down goal to go. It's second and goal. And you and I talked about this before the show. I am one of the better Arthur Smith defenders there is. I defend him with quite a lot of things because I really do truly think that he can be a good long-term good coach for us. And that's something I did not see in Mike Smith or Dan Quinn. I was a little young for Jim Moore, but some of the things I've learned. I see a lot of things in Arthur Smith that I really do like. But one of those things is not the stubbornness that he has because his father was a millionaire. He was a rich kid growing up, and he has that stubbornness because a lot of things he did when he was younger worked. So he does not know how to pivot very well. And we see it sometimes in his decision makings, trying to outsmart other people. On second and goal, there is no reason you should be running a reverse sweep tight end pass with Jonnu Smith throwing it to Michael Pruitt when you have Bijan Robinson and Algier right there to get you 3 yards and 3 tries. There's just no reason for it. And you're not like – I understand that Jonnu Smith was a former Titan, so it was a little bit of a homecoming game for him, and he had some experience in the backfield with your time in Tennessee. But if you're going to run a play like that, why not do what you did earlier in this year? And that's use Drake London, who I'm sure could throw that ball on the money to Jonnu and not Michael Pruitt, or even throw the ball with Bijan. You're telling me the freak athlete he is, he can't make that pass? I just feel like even if you're going to run that play, it was the wrong personnel. Jonnu Smith and Michael Pruitt in the red zone against a top 5 defense, who, unfortunately for us, Jeffrey Simmons was not traded on the week of the game, so we had to go up and face him. We got a little lucky with no Kevin Byard. But, dude, that killed the whole drive. Instead of getting 7 and punching Tennessee right in the mouth, we failed. And that was a big thing for the rest of the game because it was the only time we got good field position. I don't want to go too far. I want to let you chime in here and say some things from what you saw early, but that was a big determinator of what was to come for the next 3 hours.
I mean, yeah, like that play right there had me very confused. You have your tight end 2 and your tight end 3. Your tight end 2 throwing the ball to your tight end 3, while your tight end 1 is blocking for them. Your first round pick, your superstar tight end, as some would say, your your best tight end out there is blocking for your tight end 2 to throw the ball to your tight end 3. I
Goal
honestly
to
did not
go. Goal to go.
understand.
You play that. What?
I did not understand that at all, and um that play had me mad, confused, and it it just didn't make sense to me. I was speechless, and like you said, that was the only time we had really good field position, and we didn't capitalize on it, and that came back to bite us among other things in the game. But um, like if we got the score there, what would have happened the rest of the game? We could have took all the energy out of their crowd. We could have we had fans down there. We could have been a Falcons fan takeover, and we
Especially knowing that you knew it'd be a low scoring game between Arthur Smith and Mike Vrabel, who knew each other very much like, they knew each other in and out. And you knew it'd be two defenses with some bad quarterback play. So you knew points were going to be hard to come by, and you had to score 7 on short field, and they failed to do so. Please continue.
yeah, we lost the perfect opportunity to come out and say this is our game. We gonna dictate how the game goes. We're gonna control the game, and we gonna leave it to our defense to get stops and our offense to control the game, control the speed of the game. And like I said, we missed our opportunity, and that's part of the reason part of the reason we lost that game.
So we'll move along a little bit in that first quarter. Falcons are still up 3-0. I want to say it's like the third Titans possession, and they're finally starting to move the ball. And we talked about this last drive. Last show we kind of hinted at some jabs at it, and that's DeAndre Hopkins, who decided to sign with Tennessee after the buyout with Arizona and having options at other places. And maybe he ultimately did make the better decision to sign with Tennessee over New England. I think we can agree to that. But I'm sure there had to have been other suitors than just the Titans for his services, and for him to be upset with their play their first couple weeks with Malik Willis and Ryan Tannehill being your quarterbacks. I'm like, buddy, you signed up for this. This is where you decided to go. But of course, in the one game that we face him, he decides to look like 2017 DeAndre Hopkins again. But the first touchdown comes with a huge asterisk. And that might have been that was the differentiating score in this game. And maybe if it's called correctly, the Falcons do come away with the win. But then there's repercussions to maybe they don't make the quarterback change. Maybe if we score on that first drive, Micah, there is no quarterback change. So you kind of have to have the yin and the yang conversation with it. But I've never in my life seen a wide receiver be able to put the defensive back in a literal chokehold and push off for a touchdown. It was
Mind you, the ref standing right there.
It was a good throw from Will Levis. I'll give him that. But AJ Terrell was obviously offensive PI'd, and it allowed DeAndre Hopkins to have free space just to walk into the end zone, and that changed the entirety of the momentum for the rest of the game on its head. And it was so infuriating to watch. I have a picture. I don't know if it'll pull up great on the stream being I am using a green screen.
Enough of it.
You can see DeAndre Hopkins basically putting a hold around AJ Terrell around the 10-yard line. You can kind of see the referee standing in the background. And he later goes on just to push him backwards. AJ Terrell tries to sell it, which he didn't really have to do much to do so. And he ends up walking around the 5-yard line into the end zone. And that put the Titans up 7-3. And I don't want to say we're in the Saints' shoes from the 2018 NFC Championship game, because I feel like this is a little bit different. It's offensive pass interference. We did have longer chances in that game to go win it, unlike them in the fourth quarter. But I'm kind of feeling what they felt in their shoes for the first time. Not like last year where Grady Jarrett had the sack on Tom Brady and we had a good chance to go win it, but we still had to go score. Like, this could have been the differentiator right there. And this might be something we look back on in 2 months saying, man, if this was called properly, A, maybe we never have the Heineke switch, but B, maybe we are a 10-win team instead of an 8-win team. And that is just an atrocious call.
Yeah, if that called in it, if they would have called that and we would have got a stop, we could be 5-3 right now. That's 6 points plus the field goal, 7 points that they were given, basically just given to, at the end of the game, from say the rest of the game happens the exact same way. That's just that touchdown gives them the win. And that call was that's a call you have to make. I don't care what team it is, who it is, what players it is. If you that is that is textbook offensive pass interference. It's no way you miss that call. And I don't know who that ref was, but the refs I know they see. There's no way that
is he from Knoxville? Is he from
Yeah,
Knoxville? Is
like
he from something in that area where he grew up a Titans fan? Because that's got to be the only explanation. But gosh,
yeah,
man,
cause that whole choke hold. And I was listening to 92.9 on my way home from church, listening to the game, and Dave Arthur was just talking about how Tennessee's in the
my
arena.
known neighbor, my known neighbor. But yes, sir.
Yeah, in the arena, Tennessee would do a good job of showing replays um when the Titans like like it was one play where the refs threw a flag for what would have been a pass interference Titans, but the refs held it up and talked about it, and the Titans were in slow motion for the refs to see it replay
Yeah.
pass interference. And he said they was doing a good job the entire game of giving replays for that will advantage the Titans the entire game. So that interesting to me.
Currently watching the next Titans game, and Will Levis just made a great throw on third down, all for them to have a big rip away from the Steelers front seven. And that game is 16-13 with like 7 minutes left in that contest. And you and I talked about this before the show. It's almost like I would like to see Will Levis go out and ball again just to make us feel a little bit less frustrated. And I understand it's on the road in Pittsburgh and it's not at home back in Nashville, but they are currently up 16-13. It looks like with like 8 minutes to go in the game. Very much a Steelers, Matt Canada, Mike Tomlin coach game where they have a top five offense or top five defense, bottom five offense, but their defense makes enough plays to get them the win. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep you guys up to date as if when you'll be watching this, the game will already be final. So those of you who already know, but you'll see some of Micah and I's live reactions to anything crazy that happens throughout the rest of that game because we are keeping an update on what's going on with the Titans. And ironically, their next game 3 days after, which has happened a couple times this year where whoever we play on Sunday ends up playing in prime time literally the next week, so we get another grand look at them. But to look at DeAndre Hopkins' final numbers on the day, in 6 targets, he gets 4 receptions for 128 yards and 3 touchdowns. Second one is not really very excusable. It was in the red zone, and the Titans actually had short field, and they used it, unlike us, and they put 7 on the board. The third one, I'm not quite so sure what happened. That one was just another Richie Grant whoopsie, in the head where Okuda and AJ kind of got mixed up as well, and you just can't let D-Hop get behind you like that, especially when you're trailing. But to go back to, the last point I want to make about this chokehold OPI. Like, the Titans were still far enough down the field. We still have to like the odds that the Falcons could have got the stop. They were still across on their own side of the 50-yard line. So people saying, oh, well, they could have called us back. The Titans could go on and score points anyway. Not at the rate they were going at. I still like the Falcons' odds of getting that stop because all of a sudden it's second down and long instead of first down and a touchdown. And I think the Falcons go on to get that stop because the defense played really well in the second half, especially when we were losing. It was our worst defensive performance all year. And one came off this OPI. Another one came off a short field where the Titans punched it in. And the Falcons defense still put us in a very good shot to win this game when we battled poor field positioning all afternoon and a terrible turf with some bad injuries. And we'll get to all that even later. I know we're still, we're 24 minutes into the show and we're still talking about this segment, but it's just a huge, ordeal in its own right. And it's just frustrating to think that, that could have been the outcome in this game if called correctly. The Falcons could be sitting here at 5-3, which is what you and I predicted last week. But, moving on. Arthur Smith, along with what we just discussed, the Falcons found themselves down multiple scores at halftime. And part of it came back to Desmond Ridder facing a top 5 defense. Jeffrey Simmons, in particular, was just bullying Caleb McGarry like anybody does in pass protection. Good thing it was a short extension for him, and good thing he's still good enough in the run pro. But, gosh, when it comes back to the Matt Ryan days when we're trying to move the ball downfield, he looks like the same Caleb McGarry we drafted. So he's going to have to not be a starter next year at this pace. But it's a good thing that his extension is very easily to be able to get out of. So I'll give a bravo to Terry on that. He knew there was a chance for some regression, and we won't have to deal with that. But here's the issue. we played with awful field position the entirety of the first half because it was a rock fight. But the Titans were using that home field and getting any advantage they could. And the Falcons were starting backed up inside their own 15 almost every possession, inside the 10 even. And part of that comes back to Mike Hughes has just not done anything for us at kick return. Nothing. Like, he's a lot faster than what Avery Williams is, but he has not done anything for us at that position. And the Falcons don't really want to have to put Cordero or D. Alford back there because they still start those guys. So Mike Hughes is currently not a starter, and it was kind of like what he was brought in to do. But he hasn't done jack squat back there for us. I don't think he's had a good return all year, maybe one. But how many times he lets just the ball roll over his head and puts Dez and an already confused offense further behind the works. So I will give Ritter a little bit of slack on that. It was a bad condition field, starting in his own 15 on the road against that defense. I will give him that benefit of the doubt. And because Heineke had a lot better field position in the second half. But it did lead to the Falcons making that quarterback change. And you and I talked about it on the show, and so has every Falcons analyst, beat writer, podcast host, fan, etc. Talked about it ad nauseum. When are they going to make this switch? Because we know that Ritter's a project, and we think that if he started earlier last year, it could have helped him with his development, or it could have gave us more information on who he is going into this year. And we do think Arthur and Terry kind of screwed the pooch on that. Maybe you can play it a little bit more in preseason. But we knew going into this year that this team could probably still roll into 10 or so wins with Desmond Ritter being as bad as we think he could be, because we knew the defense would be improved. And we knew that Arthur Smith would get the most out of his coaching talent. We saw it the last few years. And we said, hell, Taylor Heineke's right there behind him, and he beat us the last few years. He's better than Mariota is. So we kind of gave Dez the benefit of the doubt because we could see some things developmental-wise, but the mistakes were too much to overcome in these winnable games. But we saw it last year. They kind of started Mariota a little – they kind of started Dez a little too late. They kept Mariota in there for as long as they possibly could. So you and I kind of kept that same energy when it comes to when do you think we'll see Heineke? And I think we said the earliest we thought was after the Tampa Bay game. And we were about spot on. We're like, they're definitely going to give him through that Tampa Bay game. 2 games at home, coming back from London. You win one of them. You lose that game in division. Maybe that's where you make the switch. They went out in Tampa Bay while him committing 2 turnovers basically inside the 5-yard line, 3 fumbles in general. But we somehow squeak out of that game, and we feel really confident about ourselves because he did lead them on a game-winning drive. But here we are. He got one half further than we thought. I really thought the Falcons would come out and punch our Tennessee in the mouth, being that we have all these former Titans. We have former, coaches, including Arthur Smith from Tennessee, and we thought we'd take this homecoming and punch them up in the jaw. And it turned into the Taylor Heineke show in the second half. And boy, oh boy, did the offense look a lot better. Under a small sample size, sure, we'll get into that later. I don't want to go too far. I want to let you have the floor again. But that was a very tough lump for Arthur Smith to swallow, because he and Terry had been preaching how much they believe in Dez for the last 9-10 months. And here we are, where it looks like he's been moved back to the bench spot. Take it away.
I mean, what played a part in helping Arthur Smith go ahead and take Ritter out was Ritter going into concussion protocol, and that yeah, that like I was telling family, like, just give them an bench to bench Ritter. The cat makes a appearance. Excuse to bench Ritter, and my fear through the game was, well, after the game was Arthur Smith saying they just wanted to take him out for it to be a precautionary reasons, but they went ahead and named Heineke the starter. We're gonna talk more about that later in the show, but they went ahead and named him the starter Wednesday. So like I said, we're gonna talk more about Heineke and what went into the switch later in the show, but yeah, talk about how Heineke played game against the Titans. He came in, had one pass attempts, had 12 completions, 3 to Ritter's 71 yards. He threw for a touchdown, and he this one play he broke out of a set. What definitely would have been a sack with Ritter. What I thought it was a sack. He broke out of it and ran for 11 yards after it. So and almost got us a first down. So we could see some of what Heineke is going to bring. Um, but like I said, we're going to talk about that later in the show.
Yeah, you kind of gave a good as the Titans go down in the last 4 minutes. The usual Kenny Pickett play calling is better than Matt Canada's play calling, and the Steelers lead with 4 minutes. So Will Levis a chance to have a game-winning drive. He's putting on his helmet right now. We'll see if he does. I'll be very interested to see. Um, but yeah, to compare their two passing lines, like as you said in the first half, with a lot less field possession. It was definitely a lot harder for Dez. I will give him that. 8 for 12, 71 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, but another fumble. Heineke in the second half puts up 20 of the 23 Falcons points. I believe they scored points on 3 out of the 5 of his possessions. For 12 of 21, 175 yards of touchdowns, no interceptions. And that touchdown was a dime, too. And they started, see, like another thing that I feel like was a little unfair to Dez is the Falcons went back to that running game in the second half, even though they were losing. Like, why in the first half, when you were so backed up, were you deciding not to run the ball effectively when you have number 7 and number 25 back there? Like, this team has lost some of its identity that they had last year, the smash mouth football, especially when you're trying to get ahead of the trenches on the road against a good defense. It's not really like they took them away by any means, because in the second half, when they went back to Allergier and Bijan, things were cooking again. So those are the two things I will give, Ritter a little bit of a slack on. Is it was a road game where he had poor field position and they were not really helping him by not running the ball effectively like they were with Heineke. But the difference and the spark was, you could say was night and day. And it was good enough for the Falcons to question the future of it in the second half. The Falcons do, of course, eventually do come up short. But in that second half, a flurry of others unfortunate events that currently go on, like in the late third quarter, Drake London makes an incredible catch like he usually does. We're big Drake London fans on this podcast. He makes an incredible catch, but comes up slow holding his groin. And did not return for the rest of the game, was unable to come back. Just the turf just did not look like it was in very good shape on Saturday, did it, Micah? It's an old stadium, but awful shape from the turf. It affected that, and in the first half, but was questionable until the second half. Grady Jarrett, our guy, the Jesse Tuggle of this generation, my favorite Atlanta Falcon in my lifetime, not named Matt Ryan, so my favorite player on the team currently. I think we'd like to, I'll say that, is done for the season with an ACL tear. And I just feel incredibly upset for him, being that he has put his heart out for this team, has been one of the only guys to make it through the rebuild. Him and Jake Matthews are the only two guys left from the Super Bowl team. That's it. And he has bought into this team year after year with no help, constantly puts up great stats, gets the team as many wins as he's possibly able to while getting triple teamed. And this year he was putting together a great year with Calais next to him, with Onyemata next to him, with the rookies under Nielsen getting better. And it looked awesome. He was having fun out there again. All for it to be taken away with an ACL tear on another bad turf. And I don't know if he'll be ready for next year. People are saying that he's going to hang him up. I do doubt that. He's still only 30 years old. He'll turn 31 next year. I think his prime, you probably only got like 2 more years in his prime. We did waste it for what it's worth, but he loves the game too much for him to retire. So I don't think that'll be the case. But man, as a huge Grady Jarrett fan, one of my favorite players of all time, it sucks to see him go out like that. And you could really see the difference he made in that pass rush, because Will Levis had all kinds of time to throw it downfield to DeAndre Hopkins, something that we were limiting quarterbacks to all season. We might not have been getting the sack numbers we wanted to, but at least the pressure was there to force some bad throws, force some quicker throws, and get the defense off the field. We did not see that without Grady Jarrett, and it's impossible to fill the void he leaves.
Yep, and to go ahead and shut down the he's gonna hang them up conversation. Grady Jarrett took to Instagram and posted yesterday in his caption, "Ready for whatever. However, warrior mindset, strength, no weakness. The best is always yet to come. gonna come back, gonna be back and be better than ever. So with that, like you go ahead and shut down the he's gonna hang it up. Like Blake said, Grady loves the game too much. Um yeah, Grady loves the game too much to, just stop now. And like you said, he's actually having fun out there again. Terry did a good job of building a good defense around him for the first time since the Super Bowl year, and it's been the best defense he's played
Yeah.
with since being in Atlanta. So it sucks and it hurts to see this happen to Grady Jarrett out of all the players on his defense because he's been he's been A1 and so it hurts to see that with him. But going on to Drake London, he did have a groin injury. He was questionable to come back, but they didn't bring him for the rest of the game. And so far this week he has not been present for any practices. So
Yeah. I
that's
don't know if he practiced
that's it.
today. He might have practiced today. I'm not
Nah,
absolutely certain, but okay,
nah,
he
he missed
did.
it. He
So
missed it today.
that tells me
So
he's not
yeah,
going to play Sunday if he hasn't played all week.
yeah.
Okay.
That's gonna be a hit for us, given how thin our receiver room is and how great Drake London has been for us. Um, but hopefully Drake's injury isn't too serious and he next week. Um, but I hope Grady, has a great, speedy, healthy recovery, and he's able to come back and look like himself, or like he said, come back better than ever. So, prayers up for Grady Jarrett, and hopefully we get Drake London back soon.
See, I know we hate to do the fantasy football subject, but I have to bring it up here for just 1 second because there's one league I'm in with all my boys from high school that is a paid league, like the worst. The last two people in the league have like a 24-hour punishment where they have to go to Waffle House for 24 hours with really embarrassing objects that cannot be repeated here on our show. And one of those leagues, I've been starting Drake London in the flex every week. And he's been doing good. So for the people that say Arthur Smith doesn't care about fantasy football, I'm like, well, I'm 7-1 in the league with Bijan. And I've won 4 or 6 with Drake London in my flex and the other where I've started him. So I'm winning with the Falcons players I'm starting. Can't say I have Kyle Pitts, I'm not going to lie, but I have in previous years. But there's a league where I could have easily started Najee Harris in my flex as well for about a point less of projected value. He was projected 10.6 points, and he's sitting here up 4 with 4 minutes with 16 points on the night. And if Drake London doesn't play on Sunday, that might end up costing me because I basically have nobody else that I can put in my flex. So, yay. But that's our one little fantasy football rant for the week. But yeah, that's interesting to know that Drake has not played all week in practice. I had a feeling he probably missed a couple days, and that maybe he'd ramp his way back up today and tomorrow. But if he hasn't played going into Friday, I really don't think he'll play Sunday, which is not great because you're already going into Heineke's first start at home, and on the other side, there's no Justin Jefferson for the Vikings, so kind of limits a little bit of your advantages. But is there anything else you'd like to say on, I wish we could give more time to the Grady Jarrett subject, but we've got to start moving on eventually. Any other things you'd like to add regarding, the Drake London or Grady Jarrett circumstances?
No, I just like I said, I just Grady has a good, healthy, speedy recovery, man.
Yeah. I will say for Drake London, he did end up finishing the game on 7 targets for 5 receptions for 55 yards. And whether you're a Dez fan or you're a Taylor fan, like I think we can agree, like the usage rate has been up, like for Dez, and you saw it with Taylor that first half. He played in the second half, but his first half as a starter. They have been throwing the ball to Kyle and Drake more, and that was working, and that's why Dez was able to have a couple game-winning drives because they were getting the ball to number 7, number 5, and number 8. And London's usage has been up, and so his Pitts, now that he's fully healthy, he ends up having only 3 catches for 35 yards, but 5 targets, which is better than what we had had. Maybe one of his, not so great weeks in the recent. Um, but Drake London has pretty much been consistent since he stepped on the field as a rookie. But hopefully he's okay, and I really do feel for Grady Jarrett. But we'll talk about his impact not being able to be held a little later on. I kind of spoke on this for a little bit, but I never really give you a chance to. Is there anything you'd like to also say about how bad the field positioning was for the Falcons? Not talking about the turf here, but in that first half, about every single time that punter came out there, he was pinning us inside the 10 with Mike Hughes having no thought to even go catch the ball.
I mean, it was frustrating. Like it was like a drive killer before the drive even began, and Mike Hughes, like you say, he was basically brought in to be the punt returner, and seeing the effort he's given in the production, he's like it's not good, and that really hurt us in the game on Sunday, and it was even on the kick returns, and it was they had us back. Q Smith had to recover one, and we they kept us in the far back in our territory. So that those were real drive killers. But I can say that D Alfred did post on Twitter today. He posted his punt return from the preseason against the Dolphins where he returned it for a touchdown. I think it was like 70-yard punt return, 79-yard punt return, something like that. But he posted that on Twitter today. And it has a lot of Falcons fans thinking that they might be putting him back at punt return this week. So it's something to keep an eye on.
Also makes me think that maybe Clark Phillips will start cracking, I should say, the snaps, because if you're going to bring D. Alford off as a starter on the special teams, you're going to have to kind of either bring Mike Hughes in for some of those snaps, which I don't think we want, granted. So that makes me believe that maybe Clark Phillips simultaneously will be taking some more defensive snaps and that he's been working off in camp every week, and that's been helping him. 4th down and 4, game on the line for the Titans. Levis with a deep ball to the sideline, one-on-one to D-Hop, and he's out of bounds, and he is currently down and has not gotten up. So that is an interesting development. I don't know if you're currently watching that game, Micah, but a 4th down throw from Levis. He threw it to that guy, and the Steelers did not get OPI'd that time. Was a 4th down out of bounds, and D-Hop has not gotten up, and it's Steeler football. So that's interesting to see. But the last thing I'll say about this field positioning is, yes, for the Titans, you have to give a shout out to their punter. We might have found our next former Titan to sign, honestly, after Bradley Pinion, because he's not been as good this year. Ryan Stonehouse, 8 punts for 46.8 yards of average, 6 down inside the 20 for a long of 72 yards. What? That's got to be the next former Titan for us to sign. And simultaneously, on the punt return end, Mike Hughes records 1 return for 6 yards. So I know we're people that believe that like not everything is in the numbers. The numbers tell you everything you need to know right there. Micah and I aren't lying. But that was a huge reason for Desmond Ritter's struggles in that first half, and it was a little bit better come the second half because we were actually scoring. But do you think it's fair to say this defense does give up 28 points? You could say 21 if that other one is called back. One was short field, but either way you look at it, 28 points is the most like all year, and the most in quite a while. We hadn't given up anything more than like 20 in over a month, and we ended up losing this game to Tennessee 28-23. Is it fair to say that Will Levis diced us up in his first ever outing, because he's out there not doing his job with the game-winning drive opportunity right now in the Steel City?
I mean, yeah, it's no knock on Will Levis. He had a good game. Had 4 passing touchdowns. Should have been 3, but he had 4 passing touchdowns, and he threw for 236 yards. So 38 yards. So he had a pretty good game, and Granted,
19 for 29. That's efficient.
yeah, granted, the Falcons didn't have much tape. They didn't have any NFL tape on him, so they had to use his college tape to prepare for the game. And Mike Vrabel did a good job of keeping the Falcons guessing by saying before the game that he would use Malik Willis and Will Levis, but Malik Willis was out there for one snap, and the center threw the ball too high over his head, and they took him out after that. After the Falcons recovered the fumble, but Will Levis looked really good out there, and the one that hurt the most was the touchdown to end the game. Jesse Bates got beat by Nick Westbrook. I'm not even gonna try to say his last name, but yeah, he got beat by him for the game winning touchdown. And Will Levis put the ball in the money. Like, he did not have a bad game. It's no knock on him, and it's kind of disappointing to see that he's not doing it against the Steelers right now. But like I said, no knock on him for what he
They're
did
at
against
home.
us. Yeah.
I guess you could say they're at home in a short week. And their defense has been at it a lot longer than ours has. And maybe they're not dealing with as many injuries. I don't know. We're coping at this point. But, I mean, yeah, he had a good day. Like, as you said, 19 of 29. And to speak on that Malik Willis part, I think that was in the Mike Vrabel plans, and they tried it a couple times with the Falcons where his plays weren't doing anything. And I think Vrabel was like, okay, Levis is doing his thing. Willis is not. So the Titans basically stuck with Levis, for the entirety of the rest of the contest, and he got him home to a win. We haven't even mentioned Derrick Henry yet. He did go for over 100 yards, barely. 22 attempts for 101 yards, 4.6 yard average, no touchdowns. Look, you're not going to stop Derrick Henry. That's not going to happen. It's impossible to do. But the Falcons were in a lot of situations, and I know he's not as young as he used to be anymore, but the Falcons were in a lot of situations this game, I should say, my goodness, where the Titans had many chances just to feed Henry and to win the game. And for what it was worth, the Falcons did all they could in stopping him. And we had every opportunity to still go win this game, even with Derrick Henry running for over 100 yards. Like, I feel like they had him in check for as best as you could. What about you?
I mean, yeah, I feel like a lot of reason, well, really, the Derrick Henry didn't have a touchdown was Tennessee feared the defense, giving up just one rushing touchdown on the season. They had opportunity for him to punch the ball in, but they went ahead and passed the ball, given how efficient the Falcons defense been in the red zone on the run game. Derrick Henry did get most of his yards after Tennessee got the lead and they wanted to start running the clock out. And the Falcons really couldn't stop him until like the last first down they
I
got,
feel like they did stop him though. I don't think he
he
really
got
had
like he
any
got
of
like
these
two.
back-breaking runs.
Yeah, I'm saying like they couldn't stop him from running the timeout and getting a first down until the last one they did, which forced them to. Well, he lost yards and they had to throw the ball, and then they ended up. Levis ended up
And
getting
Arnold
sacked, and they
got a
had to punt.
sack. It's a miracle. Wow, he did it. Let's go, buddy.
Yeah, and
Another bust.
well, we don't have this as a topic to talk about, but we did get the ball back and got to a fourth down. And granted, Taylor Heineke did throw the ball a little behind him, but Van Jefferson had a big drop to end the game. We didn't lose because of him, but that was one of the.
We see why he was traded now, don't we?
Yeah, he had a big drop to lose the game. It was a catchable ball. The ball was thrown a little behind him, but as an NFL receiver, you gotta catch that ball. And uh, yeah, that was That was a tough one. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, as I'm trying to pull up a picture of the Van Jefferson draft, we can maybe speculate there's a reason why he was a Super Bowl champion 2 years ago and was sold for so low. But pretty much, I think you can look at it like that third down scramble the play before. Maybe there was a way where Heineke could have easily got to the sideline and got the first, and maybe there is no fourth down. But you can't sugarcoat it whatsoever. Um, like this catch just needs to be made wide open on fourth down. And this is the drop that Mike is referring to. That would have moved the chains and gave the Falcons extra life and a chance to ultimately go win the game. And they don't. And that ended up being the end of what could have been a comeback the way things were going. And it's amazing to think that we were able to cut into it with how far uphill we were fighting all game. I guess the one last shout out we'll give is, of course, that Cordero Hodge is a serviceable wide receiver number 3, because he had himself a amazing game, Micah, with both Ritter and with Heineke. He goes off. I don't know if he was our leading receiver. He was for 3 receptions, 75 yards, caught all of his targets, and had a great run and catch to end the third quarter and basically flip momentum for the fourth quarter. And it was good to see him back out there healthy doing his thing and establishing that chemistry right away with Taylor. What about you?
Yeah, like you said, that big catch went for 52 yards. It gave us momentum. So it was nice to see him go out there. And like I said, we are thin at the receiver position, but seeing a guy like Kadero Hodge step up,
Position football.
yep, seeing him step up, um, that's huge for us. And we're gonna need him again this week with Drake London probably not being able to go out this week. So we're gonna need him this week, along with Van Jefferson if he's catching balls. Scotty Miller, Matt Collins, all the guys, and we still got B. John Kyle Pitts
Cordero,
and CP.
the Joker. Got to
Yep.
see some more
So,
involvement.
yep. And I
But
think this
yeah,
might be the
I
week
think the last shout
where
out.
we see it.
Yeah, the last shout out I'll give is Bijan Robinson does get his first rushing touchdown, which should have happened much before then. But that comes back to Arthur Smith being a little too smart for his own good. They're kind of splitting carries with Tyler, and I feel like it should be more 66-33. But, it's been 50-50 and barely played at all in Tampa. He did have a great run, which kept us right in that game in that fourth quarter. And I think he officially ended up with, let's see, 11 carries for 62 yards, 5.6 yards a carry. And Tyler had his best game of the year so far in regards to, yards per run. 8 carries for 31 yards, a near 4 average, while Heineke and Ritter combined for about 40 yards scrambling. Cordero got 2 carries as well. Like, if that's the case, just give it to Bijan at that point. Like, I understand the concept of trying to keep Bijan fresh for the rest of the year, but you got to get there first. And the Falcons are not in a position where they've separated themselves to allow Bijan some rest, especially when last week was basically a rest game for him either way. You got to get back to that smash mouth football with Heineke or with Ritter, whoever's at quarterback, to be able to give yourselves a chance to go back to that Falcons brand of football you played last year if you want to go finish strong and get to our win record, which Micah and I both had us at 6-3 to finish out at 10-7, which is going to be harder to achieve now with the loss on Sunday. If we were at 5-3, we'd be right on par, basically, halfway there. But now we're not, and so you basically got to go win these next 2 games, Minnesota and Arizona, going into the bye, to really separate yourselves up in the division, because then you'll see probably an improved Carolina team. You'll see the Saints for the first time. You'll see the Bucs one more time, and it's good they got those first 2 wins. But this division is by no means wrapped up. And I don't trust this team to be able to compete with everybody else in the wild card the way they played the last 6 contests, losing 4 of them. And if they get to the wild card, like, oh boy, we're going to be the 7th seed just to get squashed by who? San Francisco or Philly in that first round. And I'm not really trying to lose like that. I'd rather lose at home to a 5 or 6 seed. So there's some work to do. But that is pretty much everything regarding the game itself. We'll get into the rest of the, and we appreciate you guys if you're still here listening. We really do. Micah, is there anything else you'd like to talk about from the game itself before we get into what's happened up until tonight, Thursday?
I believe we covered everything that was needed for the game.
All right, sir. Well, I'm going to keep the floor with you. This was your topic, and I want you to lead us in with what you got to say here.
So, I do a daily scroll on Twitter, every morning. So today I seen the question on the screen: who's more the problem, Arthur Smith, the offensive line, or Desmond Ritter? And I feel like that was a very good and interesting question, given what we've seen 8 weeks into the season. Um, like none of them have been perfect. None of them have been where you could say that he's not a problem. He's not a problem. He's not a problem. They've all had their challenges. They've all had their problems. They've all had their good moments and bad moments. And I would say, like, starting with Arthur Smith, like Blake was saying, Arthur is a little too stubborn sometimes, where he doesn't want to go the easy route. He doesn't want to, do what we know would work. He wants to. Sometimes he wants to be a little too flashy, uh, a little too explosive. When we got the simple way here that's effective, that works. And with the offensive line, we have problems with Caleb McGarry. They're like, I was watching Kurt Warner film breakdown with Desmond Ritter, and you just see every time with the Titans, every time they did a play action, they leave the defensive end, the edge rusher, open. Nobody's blocking him. He's wide open, has a straight shot at the quarterback every single time. And I don't. It's not much Ritter can do with that. Of of course he can run, but it's just so many times where he can run where quarterbacks get tired too. And when he has plays designed for him to get the ball out quick. He has plays designed for him to let the receivers get down the field and let the play process. So it's so much that a quarterback has to think of. And when the ball is snapped, and when the defensive end is in your face as soon as you snap the ball, because nobody decides to block him and leave him open for a straight shot, can you put the blame on Ritter at that point? And to talk about Ritter, he's been turning the ball over way too much. The fumbles, the interceptions is inexcusable, especially the fumbles. Um, you could say some of the interceptions is on the offensive line for not giving him enough time. You could say some of the interceptions are from tipped, whatever. You, Desmond Ritter has been turning the ball over far too much for him to be out there at this point. Some of those turnovers should have cost us a game, like the Buccaneers game. Um, and even like I said, the offensive line's not blocked for him. But sometimes you just look, Ritter is he looks clueless sometimes. Like he doesn't want to run the ball when he has a clear 10, 15 yards he can run down the field if he just turns and go. And he doesn't know how to throw the ball away. He doesn't know how to get out of the pocket sometimes, and it's frustrating. So you can't. I personally would not put the blame on just one of them. It's been a collective failure or collective fault for what's been going wrong so far. I wouldn't say fire Arthur Smith, because Arthur Smith has been a great coach for us. I wouldn't say the offensive line has been horrible, because looking at the stats and what they've been given, the stats alone say the Falcons have a top 3 offensive line, especially on the run. And Desmond Ritter, it's not much for me to say with him, but uh, he was getting to the point where he was starting to look where we wanted him to with the pass game. So I would just say it's a collective effort for things not going right at this to this point.
And then to give a specific answer to your question, like again, we can agree that it's an occurring issue with all three. It's not 100% on one of them. But if you had to give a majority blame, so we'll say 40%, because out of three, 40% will take the most out of 100%. If you had to give a blame at back with around the A, continuing what I was asking you, Micah, if you could give a majority blame here, and because it is your question after all, so I kind of have to get some sort of answer. And I'm not asking you to give 100% blame, but out of the three, we'll say who has 40% blame, because out of 100%, you divide it by 3, 40% is the majority blame for the math users out there. That's just the thought process we're going to go with here. If you had to give a 40% blame, just to say it is the majority and answer the question, who is more the problem with the Falcons losing 4 of their last 6 games? Arthur Smith, the offensive line, or Desmond Ritter?
No, like it's definitely not Arthur Smith, but it's tough for me to pick between the offensive line and Desmond Ritter, given given the offensive line isn't protecting Desmond Ritter, but at the same time Desmond Ritter isn't holding on to the ball or making the plays that we expect him to make. So I really can't pick between them, but since you're making me pick, I'm gonna go with the player that's
40% blame.
I'm gonna just go with the player that they've benched so far, and I'm gonna say Desmond Ritter.
Unfortunate, but respect the answer. Yeah, I guess I'll tune in one thing. Like I've said it on a couple episodes, but I'll say it again. Like the offensive line depth is something the Falcons didn't really have as much of as we thought we would, in July in training camp. Ethan Greenridge, who they got brought in to play swing tackle, gets hurt. They cut Fetty a little prematurely because of locker room issues, and I feel like they probably wish they would have kept him. That or guys like Elijah Wilkinson and Chuma Adoga, they let both those guys go. I really wish they were in our second offensive line unit right now. Then you have Jalen Mayfield get cut, and it looked like he was starting not really turn the corner, but he was looking a little bit better as a backup tackle than playing the guard position. He was a little bit better at his natural college run pro position. And then right before the season, you lose Matt Hennessy, who is probably looked at as like one of the better backup linemen in the league. And even out there during this time, there were guys out there like Ben Jones and Dalton Risner for them to go sign if necessary. And then you start to see some of the issues come back, like Drew Dalman is starting to snap the ball a little low again. And Caleb McGarry is not as good in pass pro, and the offensive line played really good in run pro, and he still has been good in run pro. But all those things I just laid out were things that the Falcons didn't expect coming into this year. They expected Matt Hennessy to be in the second unit. They expected German Affetti to be in the second unit. They expected Caleb McGarry to continue to improve in his pass pro. They expected some like the backups like Greenridge to be healthy. And all those snowballed into the O-line they haven't been as bad as they were with the end of Matt Ryan's teams. But there's been games where he got sacked 7 times in Detroit. And I don't care who's quarterbacking for you. We could have had Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady back there. We wouldn't have had a very good chance to win that Sunday in Detroit with 7 sacks with whoever's back there. So the offensive line definitely has not been as good as I think fans expected it to be this year. But some of it comes back to stuff that happened literally right before the season, and the Falcons didn't have enough time to go answer. But again, Dalton Risner and Ben Jones were right there, and you decided to cut Affetti and Mayfield really early. So that part comes back to Terry and Rich McKay to say, hey, that part's on you. But the rest of them, it's just like, damn, that's just unfortunate. Things kind of played out better for us in the injury department last year. And to be fair, the injury bug hadn't really hit us that hard other than, Troy Anderson and Parker Hesse, which every team is going to lose good players. Everybody does by the end of the year. It's just how the sport is. Everybody's going to have a couple players out for the year. It's just unfortunate, but that is the case. And we had been pretty healthy up until this week where we lose Grady Jarrett. And we're looking like we're going to lose Drake for a little bit of time. And that's the biggest blow so far. Because Parker Hesse, as much as the fan base loves him, especially how much you and I love him, Micah is like diehard degenerates. We overcame that with John Fitzpatrick, Nicole Pruitt, Jonnu Smith, and Kyle Pitts like that. Keith Smith. Haven't even missed a beat. And then with Troy Anderson, it's like, well, shoot. Nate Landman has stepped up really well. So has Tay Davis and his snaps. And we talked all about the linebacker unit. But the Grady Jarrett one, that is the toughest one. And we'll get it, as we transition into our trade deadline topic. Because that was the first time all year that we could see the pressure not getting to the quarterback. And not only getting sacks, shout out to Arnold Epiketti for getting one and giving the Falcons one last shot to win the game, But there was all time or all day in time, I should say, for Levis to throw the ball downfield and put the game out of reach, which he did. And a lot of that comes back to the whole of no Grady Jarrett, because him and Calais and Anyamata were a tandem together. The three of them what was wrecking havoc, and whatever a young guy was on the edge just bucking up. And now with no Grady Jarrett, all of a sudden Anyamata probably isn't going to be as good. Maybe Calais kicks it inside, and you allow a little bit more run on the edge for guys like Lorenzo Carter or guys like Zach Harrison, who has played a lot more snaps than we thought he would this year, but has been good in his snaps for what it's been worth. But Dupree is starting to get there as well, and he had another revenge game on Sunday. He was questionable, but played through it. But the point is, like, you are not going to replace Grady Jarrett's production. And not seeing him out there was really the first time I was like, whoa, where is the pass rush? Where is the pressure? And the Falcons had chances to go out and get some people this week. We'll talk about who they didn't get and maybe why they didn't, because there were some reasons of why they didn't, but I understand the gripes of the fan base to say why they should have. But they did end up making one move, and it was getting scraps from a Super Bowl contender. And Micah, if you want to break down the details, if you haven't, for the one move we did make.
The Falcons made a trade with the Eagles, going out and getting defensive tackle Kentavious Street, and we got a 2024 conditional 6th-round pick if he plays 6 games with us in exchange for a 2025 7th-round pick. That was nothing more than a depth pickup. I don't
just
see
put him out
playing.
there at kickoff every game, and we get a free pick.
Yeah,
I don't 8 games left.
I don't see him playing much. Like he hasn't played much.
One snap. Why not? First play of the game, just get it over. Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah,
I would.
He didn't play much with the Eagles. They didn't play much with the Saints when he was with them. Blake would call it another Saints poach, but yeah. He didn't play. He hasn't played.
I was about
much
60 seconds away from saying it. Another Saints poach. You beat me to it, damn it.
But yeah, he hasn't played much, so I don't see it being nothing more than a depth pickup with Grady Jarrett going down.
Yeah, for me, like, there's two things. A, if he was the spectacular, stellar guy, the Eagles wouldn't be trading him, so you can't really expect much from him. But B, what you can expect, like, here's all we need. Again, he's not going to fill the Grady Jarrett void, but with some of our bodies not being down there anymore, like LaCale London, who has played well, is now on the IR, so he'll miss about a month. Grady Jarrett's out. Eddie Goldman, of course, decided he didn't want to play after all. So now we're down 3 guys on the interior. And unless Calais moves back in there and you have more, and even Caden Ellis, because of all the other linebacker injuries, has been set back into coverage. So he hasn't been able to blitz the quarterback like he was able to when he was in New Orleans. So all those things have now depleted your depth, and that's just kind of natural par for the course throughout the length of an NFL season. But here's what you're going to need out of Kentavious Street. You just need him to make the tackles that he needs to make. When he has a chance to make the tackle, bring the guy down. That's him doing his job. And secondly, make sure you just play the run well. The rest of the front seven has, if he continues to play the run well, like the rest of the front seven has as a team, that's all we can ask for him. Make the tackles you need to make. Don't blow your assignment. And just play well with the others in run defense. That's it. Anything else is icing on the cake. But to what you said, like, I heard we got one pick for him, but to hear we get a second one, if he plays 6 games with us, 6 out of 9 games, I'm guessing 1 snap is it. I don't know if there's like a certain snap limit. Maybe that's something that there's some fine print that we don't know as fans, but Arthur and Terry know, along with Howie and with Roseman, or Howie is Roseman, Howie and Sirianni, I should say. And again, like the Saints, the Eagles wouldn't be trading him if he was anybody special. Like that's just there's no reason for them to. It's kind of like when we got Rashad Fenton from the Super Bowl champion Chiefs. It's like, thanks. Like, what's he gonna do for us? Cool. The year before, and that's all we did. But you just need to make your tackles that are in front of you, play well and run defense. And damn it, if he only has to play 1 snap a game, shoot, just throw him out there on kickoff. Just put him out there on the line for the first play and hope that they don't go 80 yards and collect that free pick. Like, honestly, why not? Have him out there for the first snap and that's all you need, he doesn't have to play the rest of the game. I have him out there 1st and 10 from the 25. Boom, you're done. Just a thought. If it gets you a pick, it might be worth it. Like, oh no, we gave up 4 runs instead of 2. 4 yards. Baseball fandom in me. Oh no, we gave up 4 yards instead of 2. But we're now a game away from a free pick that we could either trade for a quarterback or find another steal with. So that's just my thought process. But do you have anything else you'd like to add based on, what we know from Catavia Street and what you expect from him when he is on the field?
I think we covered everything for that topic. Ready for this next one?
Yeah, it's a big one. Of course, the Commanders, they were selling at the deadline, which is awkward because they beat us the last 3 years. So it's a little shocking to see that they're tanking and not us, but they do have Riverboat Ron coaching them. At the end of the day, they've lost 5 of their last 6 games. Yes, they beat us. They started 2-0 and now they're 3-5. So they've lost 5 of their last 6, but they found a way to beat the Atlanta Falcons with Ritter's 3 turnovers. Shocker, par for the course. But they decide to kick the can down the road, and that's trading 2 of their edges. They do extend Deron Payne in the offseason. The Falcons had high interest in him, and we thought they might get him, but they don't. But they do end up getting they do end up having a chance at getting Montez Sweat more so than Chase Young, but both of them were on the market. And there was an offer out there for Montez Sweat. And he posted on his bio on social media 404. Which, for those of you that don't know, you're under a rock, but that is one of Atlanta's main area codes. And he put it under his bio, and he has family here, and he wanted to be here. If he was going to go anywhere that's not with the Commanders, he wanted to be in Atlanta. Again, both these players are contract years, and they are edge rushers who could help the Falcons with that one guy that now that Grady Jarrett's there, it's more 2 guys. But I think you and I agreed, Micah, that we were one more dominant edge away from being a really nasty pass rush unit. And we didn't have that guy, and we had a chance to go get him. But granted, they were contract year guys. But Montez Sweat wanted to be here. And I gotta admit, it's really good business by the Commanders because somehow our package leaked. We offered a 3rd-round pick for him. And I think we had more than 1 3rd-round pick. So I don't know if it's our own, if it was one that was projected to be earlier. I'm not so sure. But they had a current year 3rd-round pick on the table for Montez Sweat. And it was really smart business by the Commanders to have it leaked because the Bears went up there for whatever reason. They decided to improve their team, and we didn't. They decided to overpay. They decided to outbid us and give up a 2nd-round pick. And if that's the case, let them have him. I'm not going to give a 2nd-round pick for a contract year guy. If he was under team control, that's another thing. But these top 3 rounds is how you build your roster. The Falcons have already not been great with 2nd-round picks, more so in the Dimitroff era, so you'd like to keep as many as possible to turn that trend around. And so the Bears just simply outbid us, and that's that. And they still have to find a way to extend him because at the end of the day, they can end up wasting it just like they did with Chase Claypool the year before, and then somehow we find a way to poach him in free agency. But if they do end up coming to a deal, all of a sudden this edge rushing class is a lot less thin than it was a couple weeks ago. Daniel Hunter stays in place. Chase Young, which I'll give you the floor to here in just a minute about, he goes on the move to San Francisco, and that's a move the Falcons easily could have made if they really had interest, being that he was traded for a late 3rd-rounder, and that's something they easily could have done, especially since the Niners, out of all teams, go in there and poach him, and he's going to be playing right there with Armstead, with Kinlaw, and with Bosa. What? Again, that's another one they have to go find a way to extend, but his value is not as great as it was, and maybe he'd be willing to take a pay cut to play with the super team that is the 49ers. And that's just where the 49ers are at right now. They have the ability to – them and the Eagles are just stealing everybody and running away with the NFC. And that's just something we got to live with. But if the Falcons really had interest in Chase Young, they could have easily pulled the trigger on that package. And that's where I'm a little less upset about because I do know that there was actual interest in Montez Sweat, but the Bears outbid us. And once again, these guys are contract year players. They do not have team control. You have to find a way to extend them, and you don't know if you want to do that just right then and there. You have to see it play out. And who knows if they want to stay at that point. But Chase Young came into the league on a wrecking ball. And it'd be ironic because that means we would have got Joe Burrow eventually because we would have had Jeff Okudah and Chase Young on the roster. So if you're getting my point, Michael, eventually Joe Burrow would be in Atlanta too. We're just collecting everybody from the 2020 draft class right at the top. But you had to find a way to extend him, and he hasn't been healthy since his rookie year, which was the COVID year that he was willing to be given all that money for. So am I a little upset the Falcons didn't make a trade for an edge rusher? Yes. But do I understand why they didn't, given all the circumstances? Also, yes. I've learned to trust Terry, more so than not so far. It's just a little surprising that teams like the Bears decided to improve and not us. And it's a little more magnified being that you lost Grady Jarrett that week. And you had guys that had literal interest in joining us. But I've yapped for about a minute. I'm sure I haven't covered everything. I made sure to leave some of the door open for you to have your own tangent on how we handled the trade deadline and how this could have been handled differently, or if you want to talk about the Daniel Hunter possibility, being that we will play him on Sunday after all, and how the edge rushing free agency class now looks. Floor is your turn, my good friend.
I mean, just to start off with the Montez Sweat part, the Falcons had a deal in place. Everybody's seen it get leaked. Like Blake said, it's a good job by the Commanders with leaking that. But yeah, um, we had the third round pick that we was going to trade for him that could have turned into a second round pick. I didn't know. I don't know the details with that, but it was a third round pick that could have turned into a second round pick. And we had a deal in place, and Terry had an extension in place ready, and then the Bears just come in and trade for a player that is that's just under contract for the rest of the year. It just makes so much sense for Chicago Bears to trade for Montez Sweat because
if there's a team to let them do it, let them do it. They're in a worse spot than us. They have no idea what they're doing. Like, if they're going to swoop out and punch us in the jaw, sure, Chicago. Like, go ahead. If it was New Orleans, we'd be angry. But the Bears, okay, whatever.
Like, it just made so much sense for the Chicago Bears, out of all teams in the NFL, to go out and get Montez Sweat because they are in such a great position to make the playoffs and go deep in the playoffs. And they're having so much success so far this year that it just makes so much sense for them to do that. And yeah, I'm very very proud of the Bears. Very 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 smart move on their behalf. But yeah, me and me and Blake was talking before the show, and I said that this just could be with him being a free agent at the end of the year. If the Bears don't end up extending him, that could just be us getting him without him giving up any draft capital. If we're able
franchise
to go out
tag
and
does exist, and they could offer him the most money. So there are ways if he's that interested in money, they can offer him the most, and they can franchise tag him. So I think it's a little bit more likely than you would think. But yes, I do agree regarding the second round contract here. But I just wanted to say that on behalf.
Yeah. But yeah, if it's to the point where we can't sign him, we could get him without giving up any draft capital. And on the Chase Young part, the Niners gave the Commanders something that we could have gave, but I could see the why Terry and Arthur and both Arthurs didn't want to give up the pick to get him, given his injury history, him barely being on the field, and some coaches coming out and saying that he's been uncoachable. So I could understand that. And with Danielle Hunter, I wanted him, but that was something that wasn't very likely given Minnesota's turnaround so far in the season. They did take a huge blow last game though with Kirk Cousins tearing his Achilles. He's gonna be out for the rest of the year. Hoping for
we won't have to face the new nightmare, but yeah,
hoping for a speedy recovery for Kirk. Hurts to see another one of the older quarterbacks go down with a Achilles injury this year.
Yep, and he was a free agent. Like, he was someone that the Falcons technically could have targeted if they really wanted to this offseason on a 1 or 2 year deal, who wasn't going to win us a Super Bowl, but could have definitely stabilized things long term. And now that might be out the window because his Achilles definitely isn't going to be healed by August of next year. And it's fair to say, like, the Achilles is the new ACL. Like, it is the thing that is hardest to recover from, especially at his age. And ironically, Kyler Murray is coming back. We thought he'd sit out the rest of the year. And so now 2 quarterbacks that you and I looked at like, okay, well, those are some options they could go get this offseason if they really want to go get the guy. Now we're all of a sudden already off the table. So I really hate that for Kirk. It's a little, it's I hate to say it, fortunate timing for the Falcons because Nick Mullins is still on the IR. They can't start him for another week. They trade for Josh Dobbs, which he had been decent out in Arizona. They were losing, but he was making those games competitive. He was efficient while doing so for what part he is in his career. But with Kirk out and now Justin Jefferson, no Justin Jefferson either, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I hate it for Kirk Cousins because as someone who watched, the quarterback Netflix film before the season started, the guy is so easy to like, and he's
Mhm.
been through so much in his career. And he's just one of the guys. It just seems like, and I really, really hate it for him. It's unfortunate. I really hate to say it, but it is fortunate timing for the Falcons because the way he had been slinging the rock, they had won 4-5, they had turned their season around. I think he would have came into the Benz on Sunday and beat us. But I really do wish speedy recovery. But I didn't mean to cut you off. But please continue with your trade deadline wrap up.
Um, yeah, like I was saying, Danielle Hunter was somebody I wanted, but it was more of a dream than something that was likely. Like I said, given their turnaround in the season, um, Danielle was named the NFC Player of the Week. He just been proving that he's still a good pass rusher, and he's another guy that's coming up on the contract year, and just raising the price, raising the bar for teams. And as much as I would love to have him in a Atlanta jersey, it just looks less likely by the day. Um, but at the same time, Minnesota is, they have some questions coming up at the end of the season with Kirk being a free agent. Um, his injury, their defense, the good players are still there. They're getting up there in age. Even Daniel Hunter, their offense, their offense is still as good as it's been, but on the other side of the ball, it's like not much there. So there could be a, a chance for us to go to get him, but it looks less likely. But I'm still on the Montez Sweat train. If the Bears aren't able to extend him, and we know he wants his interest is wanting to come to Atlanta, and we've seen that with one of the quotes that he gave today. I don't remember the quote by heart, so I'm not gonna say it and try to and say the wrong thing. But uh, he does want to be in Atlanta, and he wants to be with family. So I'm not giving up on the Montez Sweat dream yet.
And yeah, it's an unfortunate thing because now let's assume both these guys, Chase Young and Montez Sweat, extend with their new teams, and there's no reason they can't. They can either franchise tag him and keep him for another year, or they're able to give him the most money available. So there's no reason that they aren't able to. So we're going to assume that these two guys are both extended next year. Danielle Hunter wasn't moved. Not quite sure what what he's going to be at the moment. But if he wrecks us on Sunday, it's be like, wow, there's no reason he comes here. You look at this edge rushing unit, like as a free agency whole, going into this offseason, there's all of a sudden not a lot out there. And the Falcons have put themselves in another predicament, another year where they didn't spend enough on the edge. Now they did in the draft. They've drafted some young guys the last couple of years. They've drafted Malone. They've drafted Arnold, who, the case is still out on him. Taquan, who when he's not running the ball, has been pretty productive as a late round pick. And then Zach Harrison. Like, they've drafted some young guys that do have some prowess and some potential, and you hope that at least one of those guys will hit and the other become productive enough. And all of a sudden, there is that depth that they didn't have in the Dimitrov era. But if you look at the free agency class as a whole, it's very thin. And they've kind of dug themselves in a hole now where all of a sudden they can't fix this long term. And maybe that was worth giving up a second or third round pick. And that's the unfortunate case with this team. But now they kind of backed themselves into a wall, Micah, where you and I have defended the Falcons draft choices the last couple of years. But we've got a wide receiver, a tight end, and a running back all in the top 10. Like, there's no reason for us to go get another skill position this year. You've done it the last 3 years. It's time to switch it up. You can go best player available, but it's time to go get defensive best player available. And maybe our tune changes by April. But as of right now, like, I hate to say I'm part of the cult. Like, it's got to be edge rusher / quarterback right now. Because we can say, yeah, we could go get a quarterback in the first round and go take a day 2 edge rusher. When has that worked out for us? In the Dimitrov era, and we haven't seen it yet with Terry. Like, they're taking these guys, but they're not taking that next step. So we haven't seen that yet with this regime, and we haven't seen it forever with the Falcons, that these day 2 pass rushers become that impact they need to. But simultaneously, if we end up taking the pass rusher, there's a chance we might miss on it, like Tack McKinley, like Vic Beasley. But what are you going to do with the quarterback if that's the case? Because you can't trade back up to get the quarterback. You're going to be settling for Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr., and that's not the answer. So I understand everything we talked about the last 15 minutes about Terry making these moves, but at some point you got to kind of have to bite the bullet at least once just to set yourself up with a guy who can be on your defense for the next 5 years. And so we better hope and pray that Danielle Hunter and Montez Sweat still find a way to trickle themselves into free agency, or someone else gets cut because of a team looking to cut their salary, and we're able to get one of those guys, because all of a sudden in the draft it's another year where it's like, well, we could take one day 2, but they might not be an impact. But we looks like we're still in the looks for a quarterback, being that it's a deeper quarterback class this year. We kept all our extra picks, so we have the ability to trade up if necessary, and it's deeper enough where we could finish with 9 or 10 wins and still probably get a quarterback we like by people slipping on the board, like Kenny Pickett did in 2021, or Justin Fields did, or Kenny Pickett did in 22, Justin Fields did in 21. Like, there's that capability, but you can't get both of those guys without trading up, and we haven't seen them do that yet in the Fontenot, Smith era. So that's where we've backed ourselves into a hole. And I know you wanted to skip this segment, Micah, but I'll keep it to 90 seconds. You don't even have to make a comment if you don't want to. Like, some of this, I feel like, might come back to Rich McKay. And most people who listen to the show probably don't know who he is. I don't know his exact title, but what I can say is he's the guy that's right under Arthur Blank. He is right there with all these decisions, and he's been here pretty much since Arthur Blank has owned the team. And while I do agree with a lot of the directions the Falcons have gone in the last couple of years, in hiring Terry and hiring Arthur and hiring Nielsen, and, you know, the way they want quantity over quality in free agency, like, I really do genuinely think the future of this franchise is bright, and that's something we haven't been able to say for a long time. I feel like a lot of the faults of this franchise do come back to him, because you look at this team and this franchise as a whole, and they miss the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I think at some point it comes back to a guy like him, who's over everybody except the owner. And Arthur's a great owner. Like, he has his flaws, I think, ultimately, like all of them do. But as a historical bad franchise, at least he cares. At least, like, he shows enough love with his team. And he does, like, Arthur's like a good enough owner at the end of the day. For us being a bad franchise, it doesn't come back to sell the team like a lot of bad teams come from. Like, Arthur does care. He's not the problem with a lot of things. So I don't really have any gripes with him. For crying out loud, he brought a soccer team here and they won the title year 2. He got us a new stadium that hosted a Super Bowl. He's Arthur's fine. But the guy right under him, Rich McKay, I feel like might be the next person that needs to go if this team continues to stay in purgatory. Because he's been here since pre-Dimitrov, pre-Dan Quinn with the Mike Smith era, and he definitely has some say. And maybe some of these trades that, like, maybe we could have offered a second rounder for Montez Sweat. And Rich McKay is the guy that says, no, we're not going to offer anything more than a third-round pick. And that's why the Falcons are so stuck and set in their ways, where they can't get this guy and this difference maker to improve their team. Because you look at the Bears, a team that's in a much worse situation than us. They didn't care to at least try and go improve their team and go get the guy. We haven't been able to do that in the Rich McKay era. So I feel like some of the control that he does have over Arthur and Terry, and even probably over Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitrov, has affected this team's decision-making. Because you look at Terry trying to win now, and Arthur, whether you like him or not, is trying to win now with most of his decisions. I feel like Rich McKay kind of has us by his strings a little bit and messes some things up that he might not think are big, but when the same issue keeps going over and over, it's bigger than you think. So I just have to let that be known, because I heard it in the Twitter space this week and I ran with it and I did some research on it. And I think a lot of what that guy was saying, so shout out to him, is the truth. Anything else? Like, I know I talked there for a minute, but is there anything else you'd like to add regarding, the free agency, edge class or Rich McKay or anything I went over the last couple minutes. I'll give you a chance to respond.
I mean, I don't have much to add. Just like I agree with what you're saying that we should go after in the draft. It's coming up year. We have to
As of
get
now,
that. Yeah,
as of now, it could
as of
change by
right now.
April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We like you said, as of now, looking at our current position, we have to go after that defensive player, that edge, that difference maker. And if we don't go for that, the only acceptable thing that we could take on offense, in my opinion, is a quarterback. I don't think that is going to change with me saying the only acceptable thing on offense. But if we don't go quarterbacks, no excuse for us to not go edge rusher or get that defender in the draft. And going on to the next segment with the with Matt Ryan. Y'all complain so much about Matt Ryan couldn't do this. Matt Ryan didn't do that. Matt Ryan was a franchise quarterback. He was
Yep.
an
Tell him.
MVP.
Tell him what you texted me a couple weeks ago.
Like Matt Ryan's it's so much that I could say, and it's like, yeah, everybody took him. A whole bunch of these Falcons fans took him for granted, and they just wanted that running quarterback that. It's so much for me that I could say, and it's like we got.
And they thought the running quarterback with the offensive line issues would just suddenly go away because he could run away from everybody. But
exactly, like
yeah,
we got the running quarterback with Mariota and Ritter, and we lost the passing. But here y'all are screaming now. We need a quarterback that could pass the ball. We need a quarterback that y'all wanted Lamar Jackson. We get Lamar Jackson. What position are we in right now? Are we even at 4 wins right now? Are we even at number 1 in the division right now? Like,
no, we wouldn't have Jesse Bates or Bijan Robinson or Matthew Bergeron or Caden Ellis or Calais Campbell, and we'd probably be 3-5, 4-4 with a much worse future because we would have locked ourselves right back into Capo that we just got out of. And he doesn't even have the greatest passing traits. The only person that could save this team right now and have us 6-2, 7-1, like the people really think we should be, is Patrick Mahomes. And how many of them are there in the league? So,
yeah, I don't understand his fan base. They wanted Matt Ryan gone for so long, and Matt Ryan was a great quarterback. He had a great career for it. He's the best quarterback the Falcons have had ever. And
save for the back.
And the entire fan base, well, I won't say entire because it's fans like us that love Matt Ryan. And yeah.
Disclaimer: we also didn't grow up with Michael Vick. Like, we didn't see him, so that maybe some of that is bias. But we saw a lot of success with Matt Ryan with bottom half defenses. But yeah.
We just took Matt Ryan for granted, and now we're stuck on our third quarter, moving to our third quarterback since Matt Ryan's been gone. And
there's a chance we don't even draft the guy this year because he might be a Michael Penix or might be a second round guy, and who knows if they're the guy. That's why we have etc. in there. So what do we have with Matt Ryan? Stability and success, and y'all ran him off. Nice water. But yeah, like the one thing, I'm not saying current Matt Ryan, Micah, would have us, in a good state right now. I don't think current Matt Ryan would have us winning a bunch of games. But what I will say is, like, even 34-year-old Matt Ryan has the Falcons at 6-2 at worst right now. Mike is having technical difficulties. We'll get back to him in a second. But even like 34-year-old Matt Ryan has his team 6-2 right now. And a lot of people don't want to believe that. But that's just the case. But we'll see ultimately how it goes. But yeah, that's the Matt Ryan segment of the week, because now we're at QB number 3, and these people are still praying on Matt Ryan's downfall. So this is what those people signed up for. They wanted Matt Ryan gone. They got their mobile guy. They got another mobile guy. Now they got a guy who's a little bit of a better passer. And if he has enough success, then we won't be able to draft the guy to replace him. And then if we do, he's a rookie and he has to develop. And those people want Arthur Smith gone already, and they want Terry fired, even though they wanted Dan and Tom. Like, are you seeing? Like, I'm turning my head left and right because you see the cycle that we're going in, and these folks are not realizing that. But again, it's what they wish for. I'm wishing the best for Heineke. I wish the best for Ritter. I still stand on what I said. I said I think this team could still roll into 10 wins with how easy our schedule is, and our team is improving at the end of the day with Ritter and Heineke. I think it's good enough to get us through a season. But there's no long-term answer, and we had one for years, but you guys hated that man, so keep that same energy now. But without regarding quarterbacks, to go back to the Sunday post game, it was still not absolutely certain that as the Suns are making a comeback in this game, Mike. That's interesting. It's a 6-point game now. Whoa, it was like 30-point game. But after the game Sunday, you heard everything coach speak from Heineke and from Arthur Smith. Like, there's no guarantee. We're not sure that we're going to go back to Dez or not. And Taylor comes out and says this is Dez's team, which is what you want to hear. You want Taylor and Dez to be in this together. You don't want either one of them throwing each other on the bus. You want Dez preaching for Taylor's success, and you want Taylor preaching for Dez's success, because at the end of the day, they're in this together. It's like what Matt Schaub and Matt Ryan were. That's what you want, right? And they said all the right things, but it looks like for a couple of days that they would go back to Desmond Ritter, especially after Kirk got hurt. They're like, you know what, we're back at home. He's naturally been better at home. We're going to go back to Desmond Ritter here and see what we can get out of him. And they decide to, to our surprise, the other afternoon, and Arthur Smith was still very, complacent with his answers. D-Led tried to get at him. Michael Rothstein tried to get at him. Josh Kendall, Allison Mastrangelo, Maria Martin, Jarvis Davis, pretty much everybody who was in there in the presser asking their questions, he repeated the same 3 or 4 answers over and over. But what I do like to take from it is that Dez was still put at quarterback number 2. He was not put behind Logan Woodside, which does make me believe that there is still some confidence in him, which is good, because at the end of the day, Arthur Smith did end up preaching about the future of Dez long term. But here's the thing. Like, you look at him like, yeah, it's a 3rd-round pick. It's a shame it didn't work out, but we're still in an okay position from it. And if that's the reason we did end up signing Heineke. If we want Desmond Ritter to be our next Matt Schaub, Micah, and that's be a long-term backup, which if he does, that's cool. That's ultimately, I think, a win at the end of the day. If we want him to be that quarterback, he has to not turn over the ball. And that's his issue. Because what you want out of your backup quarterbacks is someone who doesn't turn the ball over all the time. And ultimately, you're kind of going to want to link him up to a second contract, even if it's not worth a lot of money, because you didn't end up spending a 3rd-round pick on him. So there's a good chance that he does end up playing another 4 or 5 years here, even if he's not the starter, just because of the draft capital you spent on him. It makes no sense to let him go that early. But for him to want to be a long-term backup or to get a second chance as a starter in the future, he's going to need more reps in the preseason. I think that comes back. I think he should have started a little bit earlier last year, and I think we kind of screwed the pooch on that. We caught ourselves into a second year of trouble. But if he wants to be a long-term backup and be the Matt Schaub role, which that's a win, I think, ultimately. If you draft a guy in the late 3rd round to be your future backup and to be stable, that's a win. If you end up finding a guy, whether it's Heineke or not, he has to not turn over the football. And that's what he's been doing. And he's had the most turnover-worthy plays. And as much as you and I have tried to defend him and understand the process with him, he's played like the 30th best quarterback in the league this year. And so that's where Dez is at. It's good to see that he's still at QB number 2, and he's still preparing like a starter, and him and Heineke are right there with one another, like brothers, trying to make sure that they are leaders and that they are in this together. They know that they can help each other out. That's what you want to see. That's what you saw with Tannehill on Sunday with Levis and Willis. That's exactly what we need to see here, too. So I'm hoping, for the best for both of them. But what was your initial reaction to when you saw that Arthur Smith did bite the bullet, and it was probably a hard one to chew and swallow, that Taylor Heineke is going to be starting on Sunday and not his golden child?
I mean, like you said, after the game and throughout the week, like they kept asking the question, who will be starting? Is Taylor Heineke going to continue to get the call? Are they going to bring Desmond Ritter back? And I believe on Monday, Arthur Smith promised them that he'd give an answer by Wednesday. And Taylor Heineke got the text at 10 p.m. On Tuesday night that he was going to go be the starter. he said he slept he was sleeping when he got the text and he didn't see it till the morning. That was the first thing he saw. And Taylor Heineke, he's the ultimate pro. And like he was saying, it's Desmond Ritter's team, and it's tough to see this happen with Desmond Ritter. But they're still, you know, supporting each other. And you see same thing with Desmond Ritter, and it's something like Taylor Heineke said, something you don't see much with young quarterbacks. Desmond Ritter is still there helping out Taylor Heineke with anything he needs help with. He's you know, he's being there for him. Like you seen even in the Titans game when he got benched, they was throwing the ball, warming Heineke up before he went back out for the drive, and Desmond Ritter was out there getting the ball for him, catching it, then giving him the ball. So getting warmed up. So Desmond Ritter is being pro about it too, and um, that's what you like to see from a team. You don't see the problems. You don't see Desmond Ritter pouting. You don't see no locker room problems, and it's just all uh, not saying brotherhood. I'm not saying that. It's all great camaraderie, and and it's just something you love to see as a fan.
In brotherhood we trust. In brotherhood, blah 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 blah. 28-3. Anyways, but just moving right along to keep it. We're try to keep the show to 2 hours. Sorry for the length, guys. It is a loaded show, and Micah and I waited about a day or two after to record this. But we hope you do enjoy it anyways. So not all our shows are this length, but we're hoping you're enjoying it. Where we got about 20 more minutes to cover. I'll ask you this, Mr. Neal. What does Heineke add that Ritter lacked in his 12 starts?
I would say experience one. Because with the Commanders, you've seen multiple years where Heineke would come in. He wasn't a starter, but he would come in and, you know, finish the season for a team, for the Commanders multiple times. And he's been through it all. He's seen it all. And this isn't his first time going through it. And the Falcons brought him in because they knew he was capable of coming in, being put in a tough position and winning games. And we seen him do that against us in the past. And now he's wearing a Atlanta jersey in his home state. So, and another thing that he brings that Ritter lacked is, I would say, toughness. Heineke, he's a tough player. We seen a little bit of that in the Titans game where he broke through the sack and ran for 11 yards to almost get the first down. Like Heineke, he's a warrior. He's gonna fight. He's a winner, and um, I heard his story a couple of years ago after he beat us when he came back here. Um, he was sleeping on his sister's couch in her his sister and her husband's apartment. He was sleeping on their couch, and he didn't know where he was gonna what he was gonna do with his life. And he ended up on the Commanders, and now he's here in his home state, back where it all happened. And you just
He's a
see,
deer in headlights. Those who
if
know
you know,
know.
you know. but but yeah, Heineke's gonna fight, and that's what I love about him. He's not gonna give you half. He gonna give you the whole thing, and I'm excited to see what he give us. And me and Blake been talking about this. If Heineke come in, we're confident in him getting us through the season and getting us to the playoffs. We don't want him to play too good to where they want to, stick with him, but we want him to play good enough for us to, be have a home playoff game. So it's like Blake say is
And beat the stinky Saints, bruh.
yeah. So those two things that I would say that Heineke adds that. Oh, also passing. Obviously, his passing is superior to Ritter's, but those are the things I would say that he has over Ritter. What would you say, Blake?
Um, I mean, he has, of course, more experience. He has, 33 or so starts. I mean, hell, 2 years ago, he went toe-to-toe with Tom Brady in a playoff game. And that was the closest game the Bucs got in the entirety of that playoff run, ironically, with Montez Sweat, Jerome Payne, Chase Young. He was on that team that beat us 3 years in a row since then. But, he still had to prove it going into that next season, and he ended up doing it against the Falcons week 4, really the only choke job, well, other than week 1 against New Orleans the year after. It was like one of the only choke jobs in the Arthur Smith era where it's like, wow, okay, guys, this is still going on. And it was to Heineke. And he kind of proved his way throughout that year. And, of course, they ended up drafting Sam Howell, and the Commanders believe that long term there still was a better answer there. And I still think that is the case for us. Like, there is the Atlanta's future quarterback is not on the team right now. But this franchise is in a better spot than they have been in a long time. So the one thing I will say is experience, because he does have the 32 starts. And for what we saw in the first half is he has a little bit more of a spark. He's able to get the ball out quicker, and he's able to put more points on the board. And more points on the board is, the more points you put on the board, the easier it is for you to win. But what I will say for the fans is, like, he is not going to be the savior. Like, he is going to make mistakes too. It might be this Sunday. It might be the Cardinals game. Hopefully he gets them out of the way, but hopefully he plays a clean game versus the Saints when you and I are there, Micah. Hopefully that's the case, because he has been known to sling the ball around a little bit, and that gets him into some trouble too. And granted, it's worked a little bit more for him than it has for Heineke and for Mariota, but he is prone to give up mistakes too. So he is not going to be this all-Lord King Savior that is going to save us long term. So he has his bumps in the road, and the fans are going to be calling for Ritter in a couple weeks too if he has a bad game, because these same people that hated Ritter all offseason, and that's why I kind of defended him a little bit, was to keep that same energy, because they called for his name for months last year. Then they get him. They realize he's a third-round rookie, and they want to turn on him as soon as the offseason starts. Like, guys, what are we doing here? So just for the fans, don't expect him to be God, but expect him to be better. But he is going to make some mistakes, and we're not going to be undefeated under him. Like, we are going to lose some games, and one might come down to Heineke. But that's kind of what we're getting into. But you got to hope that he is better than Ritter, and maybe long-term Ritter ends up becoming a better option than Heineke. But if that's the case, like, how many years of development is that going to take to get where? So that's just where we're at. Hopefully he rides the ship. And there's no reason, like, this is a hot take, Micah. There's no reason this team shouldn't go be able to win the next 3 games. You got the Vikings at home versus a 4th-string quarterback, no Josh Dobbs, no Nick Mullins. Kirk Cousins is hurt, no Justin Jefferson. Daniel Hunter might sit out from what I hear. There's no reason you do not win this game at home. We said the same thing last week, but that's at home. And you made the quarterback switch. There's no reason you should lose this game. Then you go out to the desert. I know Kyler Murray will be back, and I think it's either going to be his first or second game back, but he'll be back there, and it's not Josh Dobbs. But that's the Cardinals back there. There's no reason you shouldn't win that game. All of a sudden, you go into the bye on 2 straight wins at 6-4, and you come home and you face the Saints. With everything we've talked about, there's no reason they should lose that game either. I'm more confident about this game on Sunday with the way things are trending, and then Arizona, I feel like we just find a way to out-athlete them. I feel like we can play a sloppy game and find a way to beat them on the road, and you go into the bye on 2 straight wins. So I'll kind of temper it to that. There's no reason this team shouldn't win their next 2 games. If they don't, we just got to reload. You and I were all wrong, and all the haters are right. And that'd be the unfortunate thing, because then we'd be sitting at 5-5, 4-6 at the break, and we're not going to win the South. We're not going to make the playoffs. And everything that we believed in for the last 2 years was ripped out from us once again. So if we want to be right, and we want to make this playoffs at 10-7, which is, I think, more likely than 11-6, and I think it's better to say than 9-8. We want to win the division. We have to win 6 of our next 9 games, and you pretty much got to win your next 2 to get there and go into the bye with a really good set. So it really starts on Sunday. So I guess we'll have our last segment, the Vikings game preview, guys. We play them Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock again. No new nightmare, because Kirk Cousins out for the season. We wish him a great recovery, and I don't know if he's gonna be able to get a job next year now with his age, and he's gonna be out for part of the year. So it really, I feel really bad for him ultimately. But no Justin Jefferson on Sunday. We're not so sure about if Danielle Hunter will play or not. Like, there's just no reason the Falcons can't go out there and handle business. Like, this shouldn't be a sloppy win. They should go out there and win by 10 or 13 points, win by multiple scores, kind of like with Ed versus Carolina. And I think if they do that, they'll instill a lot more confidence in us to be able to continue protecting home field. But if Danielle Hunter does end up playing on Sunday, it sucks, because you could have pulled the trigger for him. Now he's going to be, blindsiding Caleb McGarry. Madison hasn't had the greatest of years since they let Dalvin Cook go. Jordan Addison has been a beast. Like him and Osborne have been pretty good as a tandem. It was with Kirk Cousins, no, not with the guy they'll have out there on Sunday, which his name is slipping my mind. If you want to pull it up for when you have your monologue, Micah, it's not Josh Dobbs, who will start the week after, and Nick Mullins will also be activated. But we're going to be facing their fourth string this week. Like, as long as we have pressure, there's no reason the Falcons shouldn't win if they win the turnover battle at home and get the crowd into it. You can't let them be what Daniel Blow was last year. Daniel Blow came in here at the very end of the year with Arizona, nothing to play for. He got into a rhythm, and he about beat us. It took Koo saving the day again and us getting a big stop. And if this team isn't that team, they have to prove it, because I've kind of backed off that mountain from where I was for months. We've lost 4 or 6 for a reason, but we have to come out and handle business, because there's just no reason you shouldn't. But I'll let you have the floor for X's and O's here for just a minute.
I'm sorry, I was a little distracted because Wembenyama is going crazy right now.
Oh, sorry for the cutoff there, guys. A little bit of connection issues, but we're back. Micah was saying something about Wembenyama going crazy, which is the truth, because the Spurs ended up pulling out this game we're watching right now. But that was good to see. But back to you. You were just starting to get into your flow of what you're expecting Sunday and what the Falcons need to do to come out and get this win and get back over 500, because you don't want to fall back under it. We've been so good at that. You got to start pulling some of these wins together if you're not the same team you've been the last couple of years, because in all 3 years of Arthur Smith's tenure, we've been 4-4. So I don't like that track record. So what do we got to do Sunday? The floor is yours, my friend.
Just looking at both of the quarterback situations for both teams, we both got a new quarterback coming in that hasn't started a game for neither team this year. Jaron Hall is coming in with only 4 passes thrown so far this season, and Taylor Heineke is coming in with just the second half of game played last week. And the Vikings have had an issue on offense with holding on to the ball. They had like 3 games in a row where they had multiple fumbles in the game, and since then they've turned their season around, and they've been looking like the Vikings team that we was expecting before the season. But now they have another roadblock with Kirk Cousins getting injured. But going with Jordan Addison, I've been saying this since he was drafted. He's been my favorite receiver in the draft. He's an absolute beast. I love watching him play. Him and Justin Jefferson is great duo. Sucks that Justin Jefferson got injured. He's also one of my favorite receivers in NFL right now. But it doesn't suck that he's missing a game against us, but it sucks that he's injured. But I said this last week, and that went terribly wrong. But this week, I think it could actually happen where we have our highest scoring game this week, and we can actually win by multiple scores. Like I said this last week, and you see how it went for us. But I'm actually confident in it, and the defense, is facing another quarterback they don't have much film on, and say the same thing with the Vikings, with them not having much film on Taylor Heineke in Atlanta at least. But I think like I said, we will win by multiple scores, and we will have our highest scoring game of the season. And with that, you're gonna see a little bit of an overreaction from fans, thinking Taylor Heineke is the best quarterback we've had since Michael Vick, whatever. But yeah, I think we'll be able to pull this game off and win by multiple scores.
Yeah, you need to. And you just got to go back to what we said earlier. You got to pound the rock. Help Heineke out like you didn't help with Ritter. Go back to number 7. Get him 15, 16, 17 carries. Get Tyler 10 carries. If necessary, if you need to split more carries, Cordero's right there. We need to run this ball 30 times. We need to run this ball 30 times, control possession. You're facing a 4-string quarterback at home. They've won 4 or 5, regardless who their quarterback is. They're coming in hot. They're coming in ready. Jordan Addison is going to be a problem. Daniel Hunter is going to be a problem. You got to go out there, control possession, and limit the turnover, something they haven't done all year. But if you go back to running the ball, you control field position like you hadn't, and you have a chance to get the crowd into it. because this game needs to be a win. I'm not so sure. Maybe you could look it up real quick who the Saints and the Bucks are playing this weekend, so we can kind of expect what they're gonna do. Um,
The
but the
Saints play
Falcons
the
need to come out.
Bears, and the
That's a
Buccaneers
win
play the Buccaneers play the Texans.
at home.
In Houston.
Okay, well, the Bucks have lost 3 in a row, so I'll give it about 50-50 they win. I'm going to say about 85% chance the Saints win. So the Falcons need to win this game if they want to stay in first place and stay ahead of them, which you need to be by the time you face them in a couple weeks. And they just need to come out here, handle business, run the ball 30 times. It's been a little bit since we've had a Jesse Bates turnover. Maybe you come out and you make that four-string guy throw an interception and you go get 7 points out of it. You go get 7 points out of your short field and not 3 like we've had recently. You come out and you throw the ball to number 8 and number 5, but more so you just got to get back to running the ball 30 times. Take the ball out of Heineke's hands and get that crowd into it. Force your turnovers and turn those turnovers into touchdowns, and that's how they're going to win this game. Because if they lose, like everything we've been on the fence about this whole offseason, because you and I have defended them so much, and we've had reason to, but it's all starting to slip away from us if we continue to lose this week, because that'd be what? Our 5th loss out of 7 games. Then you got to go face Kyler, who might be settled back in by then, and that's a much better opponent than Josh Dobbs, who will be starting for them a week after this game for Minnesota. But yeah, any final points regarding, this upcoming Sunday, what we need to do for us to get a win on Sunday?
I agree with you saying we need to run the ball. And one thing that I did not touch on was how bad the Vikings run defense has been this season. Just going back to the Philadelphia game, the Vikings,
Completely forgot that. Yep.
Yeah, DeAndre Swift ran 28 times against the Vikings earlier this season and had 175 rushing yards. We have a better running back with Bijan Robinson, generational talent. If we're not feeding Bijan Robinson against Vikings, we're gonna need a little conversation with Arthur Smith, and we have Tyler Algier and Cordell Patterson there, and we have so many weapons to run the ball
He's
with.
finally using Pitts. Use Bijan, bro. Please. We can't defend you much more, Arthur. We'll start winning games.
We have to run against this run defense. It's been absolutely bad this season, and we just have to take advantage. Take what the defense give us. We get like Brandon Gaudin said the other week, you're not gonna deny a free gift. Something along the lines of that. You just take what the defense give you, man.
I think that's very well said. Yeah, one last, pain for a heartache is, congrats to the Texas Rangers last night. It's a team I followed almost as closely as I followed the Braves this year. They end up winning the World Series. They go 11-0 on the road in this playoff run. While doing so, they get their first title in franchise history, which is amazing. My boy RJ, if he's watching it, he's a big Rangers fan, and I'm really excited for him. And he was negative about them all year, and they ended up winning. So all for nothing. So congrats to them, but the pain that comes with it is now the Falcons are officially the oldest major sports franchise without a championship. The Rangers have been around for like 63 years, and they finally won. They've had a couple chances. They've been to the dance. They won in 2010 and 2011 with the Braves' own Ron Washington, and lost to Bruce Bochy in 2010 with the Giants, and they lost to Tony La Russa in 2011 with the St. Louis Cardinals. Bruce Bochy ended up winning it for him last night behind Corey Seager, who got his first real ring, the 60-game ring with the Dodgers. But yeah, guys, we definitely have to do a Braves show and a Hawks show coming up. Hopefully we get this stuff more cranking again. Hopefully you guys get to meet Tucker, or as known as Chain, and you guys get to see more of this UGA content. That's if Dylan is able to help us out a little bit. So we're hoping you're listening, brother, and we hope we start hearing from you guys again soon. But yeah, we really appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Thank you for spending 2 hours of time with us. Hopefully you listen to us at 1.5 speed. That might be what works ultimately. Might put a little disclaimer to do so. Sorry, this was a little longer show. We try to not make them as long, but this was a loaded show. Like, a lot had happened. And Micah and I didn't want to miss a beat for you guys, but we really appreciate you guys taking your time to enjoy your evening or afternoon with us and get ready for this game on Sunday. So let's go get a win. But make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to the Around the A YouTube channel. Wherever you see a clip of ours, whether it's something of Micah's, whether it's something of myself, whether it's a clip out or audio only, which should be coming out anytime soon. We really appreciate the support. We love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter. I am private for now for reasons, but I am private for now. Make sure to accept it though. Follow me on Twitter at Newsom Sports ATL. Follow my boy Micah. Oh, this way at Micah 2IN for all our in-game tweets. And I heard that you might be joining some more Twitter Spaces soon, Micah. So I get to talk with all you guys on there. I'm not on those Hawk Spaces anymore. That guy blocked me, just ironically. But I don't want to end the show on that note. Let's go get a win Sunday. We love you guys and go Falcons. Rise up.
Rise up.
One more thing. What's your last thing? Awkward ending. I like it.